Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Nakwam, watching for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts. And another Monday Night Fire, giving, of course, all honor and all glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, Kumalak Abashai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Mashiach, Kumalak Abashai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and enduring all things for the elect's sake. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there in the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying. They're fasting. They're studying. They're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwath out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to the ancient men, children, and the nation of Israel scattered abroad, the elect of Israel scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom, Darayash, Anthony Knox, K-Rock the Don Israel, Yafei Israel, Joshua Brewer, Shalom King. From Egypt to Israel, K-Rock the Don, Anthony Knox, Earl Green, right? ICG Law, Brother Azariah, Trey Johnson, and everybody else tuning in through this Monday Night Fire. Juneteenth is mockery for Black people in America, right? That's the topic of the Monday Night Fire. We'll go into it. Today is your infamous so-called Juneteenth, right? When you have the so-called Black man, and you have other tribes too, right? You may have a few of your Benjamite tribes, and a few of your so-called Haitian tribes, your Levite tribes, and maybe other tribes, right? Getting down with Juneteenth, right? So-called Juneteenth, June 19th, the emancipation, right, of the so-called Black man, the Judite man in Babylon the Great. You're going to find out, if you didn't know, right? If you was in if you didn't know, Juneteenth is mockery for the so-called Black man, Hispanic and Native American man. Juneteenth is not the liberation of our people. I'm still here, man. You're still here, right? This is absolute madness. I still have to go to the plantation tomorrow morning, right? You still have to go to so-called work, man. You're still here, right? So we're gonna get into this, man. I'm still in Babylon the Great. I'm still in Baltimore, right? I'm still in Baltimore, Maryland, the same place my ancestors was brought over here on ships, but yet our people are celebrating their freedom from slavery. This is not freedom. All right. Now I get it. This is a so-called transition from chattel slavery to so-called non-chattel slavery, but you're still in slavery at the end of the day. And our people have to understand what true freedom is and what true liberation is, man. Right? And what true sovereignty is. Right? Our people don't understand that, man. They've been pacified and really, emasculated so bad in this kingdom that they think that they're actually free from bondage and captivity. But the Bible, as we go into it, will show you otherwise. The Bible makes it clear. There is no doubt in Yahweh Bashmiabashah's scriptures that our people are still in the land of their enemies. And until you're free from the land of your enemy, and until you're taken out of this land and from the lands that our people are scattered in, you're still in slavery. You're still in captivity. Right? We're going to dive into it. We're not going to talk too much. Right? We're going to dive right into it. Let's actually go. Right? Let's kick it off. Right? Let's go to the book of Baruch. Right? You brothers that's been in this thing, you know exactly where we're going. Right? And you sisters, right? Baruch, the 3rd chapter and the 9th verse. So this is mockery. Right? Now you can say it's not mockery. Well, it's still, we're free, etc. Hold on, let me see if I could. They won't let me share my screen. Okay. Let me see. All right, here we go. All right, so let's go to the book of Baruch, the 3rd chapter. Now you can say, look, I'm free. I don't have yokes of iron around my neck. I'm not on a plantation. I'm not picking cotton. I'm not, living in the slave quarters or slave cabin. I'm definitely free. You can say that if you want to. But we're going to make this abundantly clear that not only are you not free, right, in the land of your enemies, and that you're still in captivity, but also we'll show you what true liberation is and true freedom according to biblical prophecy, right? So let's go into Baruch chapter 3 and 9. It reads, it's like I'm going to start at verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. Now, Baruch is writing during the time of the Babylonian captivity, right? Now, the Babylonian Empire ruled anywhere between 626 and 539 BC. The first siege that befell our fathers of Jerusalem and Judea was at 605 BC. You had another siege at 597 where other men like Ezekiel were taken captive, and then you had a final siege in which the temple was burnt in 586 BC. Baruch is writing post 586 BC to the Israelites that are in Jerusalem and that are in other parts of the earth. And he's telling them, yet this day we are in our captivity. But guess what? It's not just talking about some 2,500 odd years ago. That's not just what this verse is relegated to. This verse applies to us because we are literally fitting to a T everything in this verse that our fathers experienced in ancient Babylon. Let's read about the signs of you being in captivity and see if the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man can fit what's actually being spoken about. All right, so let's read it, right? Baruch chapter 3 and 8 again. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity. June 19th, 2023. Let's pull up the definition of captivity, right? Let's pull up the definition of captivity. Plain, right? Look at this. Look at this definition. Short for Babylonian captivity, right? You can't make this up. All right. The condition of being imprisoned or confined. So we are being imprisoned, right? We are restricted to leave this country. You can't just leave America. If you're free, just leave. You can't even take a ship, your own boat. If you take your boat and you kind of start sailing too far, you're going to have these, I can't think of the exact name, but you're crossing the international waters. And you're going to have these so-called police on sea. They're going to pull you over on a boat and ask, well, where do you think you're going, Negro? Now, you could go back and say, well, look, I thought we was free, Abraham Lincoln. Hey, they don't want to hear that. Now, you can say, no, I don't believe that. I've been on a boat. Go. All right, you could go on a boat, but you can only do so much in the boat. They tell you how much fish you could catch on the boat, how far you can go on the boat. Go ahead and go far if you want to. You're going to get jammed up. Now, you can say, oh, okay, well, I understand that. I can fly a plane. I'll just fly a plane and leave. Go get on a plane, buy a plane, and start taking off in the sky somewhere. You got to check in with the so-called white man first and have your license. You got to get your federal license, your aviation license. You got to check in with the so-called white man to even get in that sky. You got to check in with him to get your boat license. Now, you can say, well, look, I don't need that. I'm going to just get in my plane and I'm going to take off. Go ahead and take off if you want to. Start flying kind of far. Hey, you're going to have these jets pull you over, man, until you need to land your vehicle or you're going to get shot down. So you can't leave here. You can't leave here by air. You can't leave here by sea. You can't leave here by foot. You're stuck here until the so-called white man gives you the green light to leave. Right? We're going to get that in the Bible. So you are in prison and you are confined. When you're confined, it means you're restricted. All right? And we're going to go deep into this, Lord willing. Now, let's go to the book of, I'm going to hold Jeremiah, and I want to go, it's like, yeah, I'm jumping a gun. I want to hold Baruch, and I want to go to Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, right? I want to go to Jeremiah chapter 50 and 33, because the Most High is not a liar, right? It reads, thus said the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. So the children of Israel in this context is speaking about your so-called Latino tribes, your northern tribes, your so-called Mexicans, Chileans, Argentinians, Guatemalans, so-called Native Americans, etc. Right? Those are your children of Israel in this proper context, your northern kingdom. All right? And the children of Judah were oppressed together. The children of Judah is speaking about your so-called Negroes, West Indians, and so-called Haitians. All 12 tribes are being oppressed together. We're in Babylon the Great together. And now here's the point. And all that took them captives, held them fast, they refused to let them go. So who's true? The Most High or man? Because the Bible is letting you know that you have not been let go yet. All that took them captives. Who took us captives? The so-called white man. The English, the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, the Italians, any so-called white man that has descended from the so-called Caucasus Mountains and by bloodline by Esau, they have taken you captive. And here's the point right here. This is a wake-up call, a reality check, right? You so-called black men, women, and children that celebrate these Christian holidays and that go to church, and you're celebrating Juneteenth in the name of Jesus. Well, the Lord said they refused to let them go. So you're still here. And they held you fast. How do they hold you fast? It means they're not letting up. They're not letting go. There's no wiggle room about it. It's not like, okay, we forgot that the so-called black man is here. We forgot that the so-called Hispanic man is here. We forgot that the so-called Native American is here. And we'll just kind of let them go back on their own will. No, they're monitoring you. They're watching you. That's what it means they held them fast. They refused to let them go. Right? So let's go back to Baruch chapter 3. Right? So it reads, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach. What is a reproach? When you're a reproach, it means that you are looked at as abominable. Right? When you are a reproach, you're looked at as something that's vile, that's offensive. We are a reproach in this society. All right? We are the last ones that are hired. We feel that the prison system, which is another form of captivity, which we'll go into, we are reproach. We are a mockery. Right? We don't get the fair shake. We don't get the same privileges as the other nations. We don't get the same business opportunities. We don't get the same employment opportunities. We don't get the same any opportunities, man. So we are a reproach here. They push us up in the ghettos and the slums, all by design. They don't want you in their neighborhoods. They don't want you in their restaurants. They don't want you in their movie theaters. They don't want you in a backyard, man. So you are a reproach here and a curse. You're going through these curses and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. So check that out. Not only is that applicable to the Babylonian captivity of the time of Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar II, and the men that came after him, right? Belshazzar and Nabonidus and those different men. But this also applies to us. Aren't we subject to payments? Look at your last so-called paycheck. Now you can say, I don't get a paycheck. I got my own business. But look at, you have to pay your taxes. That's subject to payments. You got car insurance. You got life insurance, dental, right? You may have a car note. You may have rent. You may have a mortgage, right? You got to pay all types of fees, parking fees, right? I mean, there are so many fees that you have to pay. It's madness. You got to pay a toll to go from one part of the city to another part of the city. Anytime that you have to make a payment, it's called being in tribute. There are two forms of captivity that ancient nations and modern nations do. And we'll show you that in Deuteronomy 20th chapter. See, in Deuteronomy chapter 20, it actually shows you the laws of war. And this is how you know that you're in captivity. And we're going to go into the history of Juneteenth and all of that, Lord willing, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, right? But one form of captivity is chattel slavery, right? That's what we experience from the time of the 1400s, right? All the way up until the late 1800s in America. I'm speaking strictly in America. And then you have another form of slavery, which is a more discreet form of slavery, right? Which is tributary, or being a tribute. Now we'll go into that. This is Deuteronomy chapter 20 and verse, let's start at, let's see, 20 and verse 10. When thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. So before we went to war, and this was all cities except the Canaanite cities. So when we went to war with the let's say the Midianites, or if we went to war with the the Philistines, right? Or if we went to war with the men of, let's say the Japhetic tribe, right? Then we would proclaim peace unto it. We will march up to that city, blow the trumpet, and we will proclaim peace. And it shall be if thee, Slakia, and it shall be if it make thee answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee. So we didn't put them in physical slavery. We put them in a financial slavery. All right, that's what this is, an economic form of slavery. We didn't have to put yokes of iron around these people's necks, right? They became a tributary of somebody that pays taxes to you. Now, in the ancient world, they weren't dealing with paper money. So you would pay 10,000 oxen a year, right? You'll pay 5,000 talents of gold, right? You'll give 1/3 of your harvest to the king. So right now we pay tribute. That's why if you look at your wages, what are you paying? You're paying a federal tax, a state tax, a city, city fines, all types of things. Now, if we look up this word tributary, so you Israelites, you are not free. You are actually in tribute. See that? Here's the word right here, right? Tributary, a levy. Taskmasters, tribute. Look at this. Gang, or a body of forced laborers. Task workers, labor band, or a gang, forced service, task work, serfdom. We're going to go into that word serfdom. Tributary, tribute, levy, taskmasters, discomfited. Forced service, serfdom, tribute, here's the word, enforced payment. Go ahead and don't pay your taxes. See what happens to you. See what happens to you. Right? Don't pay your car insurance. You won't have a car, man. Right? Don't just go on a whim and say, look, well, I'm not paying for this, and I'm not paying for that, and I'm not paying for this, and I'm not paying for that. This is enforced payment. So yeah, although you may not be on a field picking cotton, cutting sugar cane, you're still in slavery because you are under tribute from a foreign nation. You're still a prisoner of war. All right. And you see this, some of these words that are given: forced service, serfdom. What is serfdom? In the medieval ages, you had a class of people in a feudal system, right, called serfs. A serf is somebody who has to till the land that is owned by a prince, a monarch, or a king, which is equivalent to you working at these corporations, businesses, enterprises, warehouses, Fortune 500 companies, right? These are the things that you have to do in a feudalism type of kingdom. Let's pull up serfdom. See that? Serfdom is a system in which peasant farmers, are bound to a plot of land and the landlord. And you're bound to a plot of land. right? And you have a landlord. You Negroes, you have a landlord. Well, I don't have a landlord. I own my house. Well, you got to check in with the HSA. I believe that's what it's called. You got to check in with the so-called white man. They give you a little bit of land. You know, you got to go through the whole protocol. You got to sign all types of paperwork, and you got to check in with your landlord. Now, your landlord tell you what you can and you can't do. Hey, look, no loud music after 8 p.m. Right? Now, you can do this on the land, but you can't do this. Right? And you can have a pet, but if you want a pet on this land or this apartment or this house, hey, I'm gonna need $50 a month, pet fees. Hey, look, now check this out. You can have this land, but I'm gonna kind of give you some water. Well, I'm gonna pay you water, but you have to pay this for to drink. See that? So this is like a serfdom kind of system. Serfs, right? Jake, you're a serf, right? Serfs have to work without pay for the Lord in exchange for living and working on the Lord's manor. And you really, you get paid, but it's not really paid, right? The Lord tell you in Haggai, right, that we earn money to put it into a bag with holes. All right, we earn money to put it into a bag with holes. So this is a wake-up call, man. Right? You Israelites, you are not free by any means. Okay, this is Haggai chapter 1 and 6. Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Yea, clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. So yeah, Jake, you sow in much, man. You're working 60 hours a week, right? 50 hours. You're working double overtime. You're sweating. You're grinding. And you bring in little, man. You work 60 hours and it's still not enough. Because there's always something. Something's always happening. Your car break down. You got bills. You got gas and electric bills. You got water bills. You may have a mortgage, right? You may have to pay taxes, right? You got all types of stuff, man. You bring in little. You barely got enough to eat. You eat, but you have not enough, right? You might, sometimes you can't get seconds, man. You might have enough, but you got to save enough for tomorrow, right? And you might have to ration your food out. That you got to make it stretch. Jake, you known for making your food stretch, right? You add a little bit of flour here. You add a little bit of water here, right? You take your milk, right? You add a little bit of water for your cereal to make that milk stretch. You take a little bit of flour, you add it to this, and you make that kind of stretch. And you're trying to always make something stretch a little bit. You got that big pot. Okay, this spaghetti. Okay, this spaghetti in this big pot is going to last us 3 days. It's cheap. We'll get that. And we got rice. You always trying to make something happen, man. Because you don't really have enough. A lot of Jakes won't survive without food stamps, man. You need your $250 a month, right? Your $300 a month, just to kind of make ends meet. You're kicking a father out the house who can get your food stamps, your government assistance. So you don't really have enough to eat, man. You can't eat where these Edomites eat. And if you do, it's a rare occurrence. Well, I eat out with the eat. You're not eating how these rich elites are eating. Jake, come on now. So you don't have enough, man. These guys, they're eating food in Paris tonight. They'll be in Paris tonight, and in the morning they'll be in London eating brunch. Right? And Jake, you're trying to figure out what kind of cereal you want, man. In the morning. Right? So it says, ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Right? You got this defiled tap water. You're running out of bottled water. Jake, the most best drink you get is your spring water. I don't drink that purified water. I don't tap water. I drink Like you think you're making moves because you got your spring water. So you don't really have enough to drink, man. You can't even drink your own tap water that come out your faucet. I don't drink that. Some people that I've seen, look at you got Flint, Michigan, and I believe it's another city in Mississippi. In Baltimore, they had a boil water advisory. Right? Esau come in the news and say, you Negroes in Baltimore, hey, look, today ain't the day to drink that tap water. Hey, boil it, clean it, and see what happens. It's not happening out where these Edomites live at, man. Come on now. Wake up, man. You're not filled with drink. Let's read on. Yea, clothe you, but there is none warm. Man, you gotta pay all types of heat bills, man. You're telling the family, put the socks on, put your socks on, put your socks on. So nobody you can't just run that heat. You gotta have your socks on. You might have a hoodie on around the house because you don't want to run that gas and electric bill up. You open up that oven, kind of turn that oven on, kind of warm the house up a little bit. You say don't let the hot air out. You're letting all of the air out. You think Esau's telling his kids, be inside, be outside, you're letting my air out? They're not doing that. So you're barely making it just to be warm. And this precept, you could do a whole breakdown on this. And he that earneth wages to put into a bag with holes, meaning, hey, before you know it, you get your money, it's spent the next day. Right? It's spent the next day. So that's what this means, serfdom. You're really working without pay because by the time you get it, it's gone. And you're working for the Lord. Now, in serfdom, in the feudal system, let's put up ancient feudal system because that's really how Babylon the Great is moving. See if we can get a feudal system. All right, let's see. Okay, you had the king, you had the lords, you had the military, and then you had the serfs. Now this is like Babylon the Great. Jake, you're the serfs. See how it says pay rent? You pay rent to the men above you. They give you food, protection, and shelter. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 48. This is like an ancient feudal system. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's go to verse 48. All right, it reads, therefore shalt thou serve. I'm going to start at 47 because we got to start at 47 sometimes. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. So since it's not a joy for you to serve the Most High, that's why you're in slavery right now. Or that's why we are in slavery right now. That's why we are in captivity right now, because to our people, it's not a joy to pray. It's not a joy to do the work. It's not a joy to read. It's not a joy to study. It's not a joy to fast. It's not a joy to call upon Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And Nehemiah 8th chapter says the joy of Yahweh is your strength. So when this truth becomes mundane, it becomes monotonous to you, you go through the motions, it becomes a chore, it becomes a burden to you, you need to check your spirit, man. Because that's the same reason why we still here to this day. Because you hate serving the Most High. It's not a joy for you to get up and pray. Oh, I got to get up. Oh, boy, let me check my phone first. Oh, the floor is way down there. Oh, boy, I'll get to it when I get to it. Instead of getting up, oh man, I'll pray to see how B'Shem Yahushua. Right, let me throw some prayers up. So that's why we're serving our enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee. And hunger, right? This is plain. We bring this precept out every week just about. So you go to them for food, you rely on them for water, for clothes. This links directly up with Haggai chapter 1 and 6. And in one of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. So you serve him for everything. This is like this feudal system we're looking at. Esau gives you food. He gives you protection. So nobody can really you can't protect yourself, man. You got the police. Where is it? Where's your police at? If you're so free, where's it so? I'm not talking about neighborhood watch. I'm not talking about a bunch of jakes who decided to get matching t-shirts and patrol the neighborhood. I'm talking about a real police. You get your own firearms. You can get your own district. You get your own building. And you can tell the so-called white man, look, this is not your area. We got this. No, they give you protection. Right? When there's a theft, a drive-by, a shooting, Esau gives you protection, allegedly, right? We know how this system works, but that's what they're here for. In exchange for protection, you got to pay them, huh? See, this is a good chart right here. They're breaking it down. You got to farm their land, then you got to work at their Amazons. You got to work at their corporations. You got to work at their Targets. You got to work at their Walmarts. You got to work at their factories. You got to farm their land. That's what a plant is. Well, I work at that plant, the spice plant. I work at this mill. A mill and a plant is nothing but a plantation. I got to check in at the factory. The word factory goes back to the Latin facere, meaning to make or to do. So you're making and performing a task and doing a task for the so-called white man. You know? So Jay, you're not free. You're not free. You pay rent and they give you shelter. You can't just build your own house and say, I'm not paying no taxes. I'm not paying no rent. Pay bills, I'll build my own house. You know, the so-called white man has something called eminent domain, right? We'll pull that up. Eminent domain, right? This is madness right here. Let's pull this up. Eminent domain, right? Which is called that in the United States. It has other names in other countries. What is it? It's the power of a state, provincial, or national government to do what? To take private property for public use. So they can do what they want to do. I got my own house, got my own business, right? Well, you got your business as long as the so-called white man lets you have your business. You want to take that business and turn it to a military base? You want to take over that building you're renting out and turn it into a testing center for the new pestilence that he creates and sends on the earth? He'll do that. You want to take that, he'll take a school and turn it to a voting center. He'll take he'll do whatever he want to do, man. You know? So there's a lot going on in this society that our people, they don't really know the laws. If you knew the laws and how this government worked, you really wouldn't say that you're free. Right? And we hope this is a learning lesson for you Israelites, man, that you may look for true freedom, that you can have a more divine expectation and a better liberation than what you think you have now. Because what you think you have now, it ain't it. And it don't compare to what Yahweh Basham Shai has in store for you. What this is, this emancipation, so-called, it fails in comparison. And that's not even the right word to use. That's an understatement to the glory in the kingdom of heaven. And we'll show you the comparison, right? What you got post-slavery and what you're going to get post-Babylon the Great. Because right now we're showing you, we're laying the facts down. What ancient slavery was, tributary, you know, and all of these things. So this is you're in serfdom. We'll finish this chart out. Now above us, right? Because right now we are the peasants. I don't care if you make $80,000 a year or $8 an hour. Well, I make $95,000. I have my own trucking company, brother. Come on, brother. Right? You're still in this field right here. Then you have the knights in the ancient world. Now the knights, we know what the original knights was Jakes, right? Esau kind of gentrified it. But your knights are your that middle ground between the elites and the regular people. So that's like your SWAT team, your police department, the National Army, the National Guard, your Navy SEALs, right? And they're the ones who get taken care of. They don't get taken care of by you. They get taken care of by the people above them, which are the lords, vassals to the king. So your vassals to the king are your elites. These are like your presidents, right? Your judges, right? Your congressmen, your senators. Those are the modern day lords. And they report to the king of Babylon, which is your so-called Illuminati, right? Your so-called elites. But Jake, here you are at the bottom. You're still in serfdom. You're still in serfdom. It's just modernized. All right? It's just modernized. So let's go to the book of let's get the classic, right? Hosea chapter 4. Hosea chapter 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And it's really what it comes down to, right? The lack of knowledge, the lack of knowing what slavery is, what emancipation is, what liberation is, right? Really just knowing what these simple words mean and the definition and the etymology of words will really be enough for you just to know that, hey, look, I'm not free. Knowing the knowledge of your God and the promises that he has given you before the so-called white man so-called emancipated you will simply still be enough for you to know that, hey, look, I'm not free. Because I read that the Most High had a promise to Abraham that we would inherit the earth. A promise to Ezra. It said the world was made for our sakes. Right? Isaiah the 60th chapter, that these nations are going to bow down to us. If you don't know the scriptures, if you don't know the laws and the breakdowns and the promises and the glory, then you're still going to think that what the so-called white man gives you now is enough for you to think that you're free. So indeed, Jake, you are destroyed because you don't know anything. You don't know enough. You're wise to do evil, right? Let me finish this precept. Thinking of two precepts real quick. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because thou hast rejected knowledge. Yeah, I don't want to hear that. That's the white man's book. Yeah, goddamn, that's King James was a sodomite. Right? I'm my own God. Right? I mean, I can do what I want to do. All right, well, since you reject knowledge, what the Most High going to do? I will also reject thee, that thou should be no priest to me. Seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter, dealing with this ignorance, because that's who we really are at war against, right? We know that the Most High said that Esau is our enemy, right? The Lord said, because of the reproach of the heathen are enemies. We know that. Nehemiah 5 and 9, Job 21 and 7, Psalms 27. We know the scriptures that show that the so-called white man is our enemy. But there's another enemy that we are up against, right? There's another adversary. It's all being directed and fueled by the spiritual demon Satan, but there's another adversary that we are up against. And we'll read that, right? This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, and let's see, 22, right? Salakia. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of the Most High. But whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, so though those so great plagues called they peace. Let's read this again. This is Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them. What's the this? The this is the deceit that came by the so-called white man as they falsified the true image of Yahushua Hamashiach. You would have thought that was enough for our people enough for the so-called white man to destroy us, right? It says that they erred in the knowledge of the Most High, because people still worship that image. They still bow down in Christianity. People still go to church. They still go to mass, and they still confess their sins to some wicked priests, right? But it says, but whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance. So there's another war going on. Yeah, we have World War III. We know about Russia, Iran, right? We understand the kings of the East and Iraq and North Korea. And as they ditched the dollar and they formed their alliance, We know about the CSTO, the Collective Security Treaty Organization, the SCO, the Shanghai Corporation Organization, and all these political moves that lead to World War III. We understand that, but there's another war going on, and this is the war of ignorance. And our people live in this war of ignorance, man. Right? Here you have knowledge and information presented to you with a click of a button. Right? It's right in front of you. It's right there. It's all on the internet. So it's on every corner. There are camps in every corner, man. Not just WFI. You got all types of congregations, and really outside of the, what I would say maybe 3 to 5% of difference in doctrine, really they all teach the same thing. What is that? Repentance, right? To Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai. They teach that we're the Israelites, the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American men are the Israelites. We have to keep the commandments and have the faith in Yahweh Shai. Those are common things that rather you live in, or rather you're part of Watchmen for Israel, or you're rather part of Sakari or Sons of Thunder or IUIC or GMS or ISUPK, or they all teach that. They all teach repentance. They all teach that we're the Israelites. They all teach that we got to keep the commandments, and they all teach that this place is going down, and they all teach the faith of Yahweh Shai. When I say this place, I'm talking about Babylon the Great and these other nations. You can't tell me that maybe 90% of these so-called black men that are celebrating, or black women, Hispanic and Native Americans that are celebrating Juneteenth. You can't tell me that they haven't stumbled across an Israelite at the grocery store, at the Walmart, right, at the bank, walking on a Shabbat, right, walking on a Sabbath day. Saw a video, heard what Kyrie Irving was talking about, saw what Kanye West was speaking about, saw it all on the news. You can't tell me that it wasn't in front of them. So it's not as if the knowledge isn't here. But there's a great war going on where information is clashing against what the so-called white man's putting out. He's putting out lies and deception. And then you have the knowledge of information. So there's a war going on. And our people are being taken captive by ignorance and taken captive by the demons that the society's putting out. So now it reads, those so great plagues called they peace. This is a great plague. Working for the so-called white men is a great plague. Paying rent is a great plague. Paying mortgage is a great plague. A great plague does not always mean locusts and flies and water into blood and darkness. Right? Being in the ghetto is a great plague. I was coming from camp. We had camp this past so-called Saturday at AFRAM, right? So-called African American Festival. Driving home, I look to my right down the block from the crib. I look at the bus stop, taped off. It's a Jake dead OD crime scene out there. He's stuck, froze, right? Lights out. He in the spirit world. The drug epidemic, the violence in our communities, and I mean, I can go on and on. These are great plagues, but when you're ignorant, you call great plagues peace. You call being in Babylon the Great, you call it being peace because you think that you're free from slavery. It's absolute madness, and you are a captive in this great war of ignorance that has been created by a man of war, Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Right? This is another war that he has set up. There are many wars and many conflicts and dualities on the earth. Right? You have the war between Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua and Satan, right? That the Most High creates. You have the war between Jacob and Esau. You have global war. Even insects and beasts go to war. Lions and hyenas go to war, right? Ants and praying mantis go to war, right? You have wars and conflicts between knowledge and ignorance. And you're either captive and held fast by wisdom and knowledge, or you're captive and held fast by ignorance, right? So our people have to wake up and understand what Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua has set upon you, right? Now, when you go, let's actually dive into this, right? I want to go into this history of so-called Juneteenth. Those so great plagues called they peace. Now, this is from Reuters, right? 10 hours ago. What is Juneteenth? History of the U.S. federal holiday and its celebration explained. So we'll dive into this, kind of give you the origin, right, about where this day came from, and kind of break it down through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? And what did they give you? This is just my interjection. This month is also Sodomite month. So they knew what they were doing. Any month that is even supposed to be dedicated to the so-called black man in America, it's always immersed, or there's always some type of what's the word I'm looking for? Some type of evil, man. The so-called Black History Month is the coldest, shortest month of the year. The coldest and the shortest. Your so-called Juneteenth, they said, look, the Sodomites said, when do we want Sodomite Pride Month? They said, give it when the Negroes were free from slavery. Right? They could have picked any month. They could have said July. They could have said October. Why Sodomite month? Why that month? Now you can say, well, because they had the riots and they had this. And well, this is all by design. All by design. You have to know who your enemy is, man. All right, so let's read this. Look at this. Look at this madness. Blowing the trumpet. Blowing the trumpet. Let me go to Romans chapter 10 and 2. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 10 and 2. Our people have no understanding. Right? But that's okay for now, because you have an opportunity to get the understanding. Right? Romans 10 and 1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to the Most High for Israel is that they might be saved. So the Apostle Paul strictly wanted Israel to be saved, nobody else. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. Right? So they have this zeal and a sense of being free, and oh, God freed us, and God heard our prayers, and the Lord, he took us from the hand of the so-called white man, and we're finally free in America, and I can get an iPhone, and I can sit on the same toilet as the so-called white man, and I can drink from the fountain of the so-called white man, and the same spoon that he eat with, I want to eat off that same spoon, right? And you did all of this, but this is not according to knowledge. For they, so the Apostle Paul breaks it down more. For they, meaning the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, being ignorant of the Most High's righteousness. We keep reading about this word ignorant. The war of ignorance, were destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? Now we're ignorant of the Most High's righteousness. And Jake, you always use that word ignorant. Oh, that's ignorant. Oh, she's so ignorant. Well, the word ignorant, I heard somebody say the word. There's all types of definitions that Jake threw out there for the word ignorant. Let's pull this up, man. Right? There's all types of definitions. It means without knowledge, right? See this? Ignorant, lacking wisdom or knowledge. All right? That's what it means. And meaning not, and naris is Latin for aware or knowledge or to know. Okay? So when you're ignorant, you're lacking wisdom and knowledge. And that wisdom and knowledge is not talking about, I don't know calculus, or I don't know what the square root of 9 is. And okay, I don't know what the capital of Bangladesh is. No, that's not what it's talking about. Or Iraq, right? But it says wisdom and knowledge. If you lack that, that's ignorance. Right? Now, what is the wisdom and knowledge that our people lack? Let's go into this. Right? This is a very fundamental lesson. Very fundamental. Let's go to Job chapter 28 and 28. Right? This is the simplicity of Hamashiach Yahushua. Right? Job chapter 28 and 28. And unto man he said, behold, the fear of Yahweh, that is wisdom. And to depart from evil is understanding. So when you're ignorant of wisdom. You lack wisdom. You lack the fear of the Lord. Right? And it says, what is understanding? Understanding is to depart from evil. Right? So if you want to know what true ignorance is, the true essence of ignorance is not knowing the Most High's commandments, not knowing who the Most High is, not knowing what his promises are, not knowing who we are as a people, not knowing the prophecies. That's true ignorance. Right? So that's ignorance at its highest level, to the 7th degree. So, Jake, the Lord said, for they being ignorant of the Most High's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of the Most High. So Jake really want to do what they want to do. Now, in its proper context, this is speaking about Israelites who want to submit unto the law and not accept Yahweh Shai, right? In its proper context. Nevertheless, we're applying this to this modern day world of our people who want to establish their own salvation, their own freedom, and their own righteousness, but not understand what the Most High's righteousness is and what the Most High has in store for you. You can't establish your own righteousness. You can't establish. Why would you go off when the so-called white man said you're free? Oh, the so-called white man said I'm free, so I was free. Right? What sense does that make? You're going to let your enemy let you know when you think he's going to tell you that you're free? Right? This makes no sense. So the Lord said, never trust thine enemy. Right? So let's go into this. That's Sirach 12 and 10. What is Juneteenth? Right? History of U.S. federal holiday and its celebration explained. This is Crystal Howard. She's marching down the street while playing with her band during the block party to mark Juneteenth, which commemorates the end of slavery in Texas, right? Over 2 years after the 1863 Emancipation Proclamation freed slaves elsewhere in the U.S., right? In Nashville, Tennessee. Juneteenth is the newest federal holiday and commemorates the emancipation of enslaved Black Americans. Well, first of all, we're not Black Americans, right? We're the Israelites. And you so-called Black Americans, let's pull up the 12 tribes chart. You are the children of Israel, but you are Judites, right? Let's pull this up, right? This is 101, right? 101. What's the 12 tribes chart? They're making it harder to find a 12 tribes chart. All right, we'll pull anyone up. So Judah, you so-called Black Americans, you are Israelites from the tribe of Judah. You're not Black, right? Nobody's actually Black. We say it all the time. Go find one person that's actually Black, and I'll shut the live down right now. I will actually Black. I'm not talking about dark brown. Right? So it says Black Americans. Well, we're Judites. When you go back, and we've been going into etymology, Black is the original color of sin. You know, prophetically, when you read Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5 through 6, Job 30 and 30, Lamentations 4, Lamentations 5, right? You read about Black always being used in a negative context, right? Because white biblically is symbolic for righteousness, piety, holiness, purity, godliness, sanctification, perfection, and Black is the opposite. Black means wicked, evil, judgment, affliction, chastisement, punishment. We just did a whole cold cut on that on the Cold Cuts Resurrected channel. On the Q&A, we kind of went into that breakdown if you want to go into it. Okay, so Black was used of dark-skinned people in Old English, of coffee with nothing added, attested by 1796. The meaning, fierce, terrible, wicked. is from the late 14th century. The figurative senses often come from the notion without light, moral, or spiritual. So you Jakes, they say you have no light, man. Latin, nigger, had many of the same figurative senses: gloomy, unlucky, bad, wicked, malicious. The metaphoric use of the Greek word melis, however, tended to reflect the notion of shrouded in darkness or overcast. Now check this out. In English, it has been the color of sin and sorrow at least since the 1300s. All right, so let's go back to this. So they say you're a Black American. We know America goes back to the Italian cartographer, America's Vespucci. So this is Mockery, right? U.S. President Joe Biden signed the bill creating the holiday in 2021, right? So boy, man, 2021. First of all, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black, right? He got you so-called Negroes with that, man. Well, I was Black. I will vote for Joe Biden. He told you, he looked you dead in your eye on camera and said, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. And a lot of Jakes is, I'm Black, I'm gonna vote. Who does he think he is? Right? Who is he to tell me? Who is he to tell me I'm not Black? I'm gonna show Joe Biden I'm Black. Right? You got in your car, you pull it up, and you voted for Joe Biden. The child molester, the child sniffer, right? The groper, the rambler, the evil man, right? So he gave you a gift. Let's go to the book of Exodus, right? See, this was also, Jake, if you celebrate Juneteenth, you violate the law, right? We'll show you that that's a sin. Exodus chapter 23 and 8. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous. Now you've taken a gift. What is the gift? A holiday invented by the so-called white man, right? That is strictly predicated to the so-called Black men in America, strictly for you. And this gift is blinding you. It's blinding you from true judgment. It's blinding you, and now you're thinking, well, the so-called white man can't be my enemy. He gave me a holiday. He respects me. He appreciates all my hard work that I've done for the 500 plus years in captivity. In fact, he loves me. He loves me so much. He's, in fact, apologizing. He has given me a day, not a week, not a month. He has given me a day, right, to say that I was free, right? The white man must be good. They can't all be bad. So now you're blinded. You're blinded. And it perverts the words of the righteous. So you can't take gifts. A gift don't always have to be money and gold, right? A gift could be a holiday. A gift could be a flattery. You can't accept everything from someone because they're using it to blind you from true judgment. So if you accept this day and celebrate it, you are in direct violation of Exodus 23 and 8, whether you know it or not. All right, let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7. That's like you, Jake, when they said we're going to put Harriet Tubman, I believe, on a $20 bill. Right? A lot of you, Jake, you lost your mind. Oh, we free. We made it. We got Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. I don't even think she's on a $20 bill yet. They told you that just to kind of keep you quiet. They give you iPhones. They let you work at their jobs. Esau will even let you date their woman. And you can have these ones over here. Right? They'll let you go to their colleges. They'll let you make six figures. They'll let you perform in their sports arenas. They'll let you box in front of a Las Vegas multi-million-dollar crowd. They'll let you wear their clothes and you can fly their planes and drive their cars. They'll give you these things. But they're not doing it because they love you, Israel. They do that to pacify you. Ecclesiastes chapter 7:7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. So we read in Deuteronomy chapter 28:48 that Yahweh Basham Yahushua said that he will put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. So you're already destroyed, right? Due to the mental destruction that you experienced through Willie Lynch, through robbery, through rape. I mean, you have so many years of trauma that you haven't even overcome. When I say you, speaking generally for our people, of course, so much trauma that you haven't been healed from. You know, people when they lose a father, lose a mother, people see psychiatrists, a psychologist, and they have to talk about these things and cope and deal with it. You can't deal with this, man. You can't deal with over 500, 600 years of this stuff, man. So your mind is already destroyed. You know, when people go through trauma, it changes their behavior. Right? People that deal with near drowning, they don't go near swimming pools anymore. They don't even like to hear that word pool. They're kind of they move a little bit different. People that experience a car accident, right? A near-death experience, they don't want to get in the car, and they'll take the bus. They'll take the train. They'll walk. I'll never get in the car again. When you go through trauma, it directly influences your behavior from that point on forward. Some people overcome that trauma. Some people remain that way to the day they die. That's an accident. That's one day. That's a one-day event. How much more over 600 years, 500 plus years? Right? There's so many things that we have to go through in slavery. We had breeding farms, forced incest, robbery, rape, buck breaking, lynching, castration, double castration, torture, right? We can go on and on. The eating of our men. So there's a lot that our people are destroyed. If you ever wonder, why is he acting like that? You got to think about the psyche of our people, man, and what we experience. We are destroyed. We are gone. We are nowhere near, not even close to how our fathers used to be. We had an ancient mind of wisdom. Now we're gone. I mean, look at our people. We're gone. Look at our women. Look at our men. So not only are we destroyed from that, we're also being further destroyed by what? A gift. Let's read this again. Ecclesiastes chapter 7:7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad. So a wise man, he's going to be mad at the fact that our people are being murdered, robbed, shot, killed. The brother just got decapitated down south not too long ago. He had his head chopped off. Nobody said too much about that. You had a young brother, I believe he was 12. He just got shot in the back. They had him on the ground. Oh, we shot him in the back by accident. Right? A wise man is mad he has to go to work. A wise man is mad that he gets a paycheck. A wise man looks at Juneteenth as pure mockery. He looks at it as pure mockery. He's upset that his people think that they're actually free. If you think you're free, I mean, there's nobody can tell you. A wise man is mad that his people are receiving gifts and it's destroying their minds, destroying their spirits, man. So you can't take these gifts. Right? Hey, let's tell you that in 2nd Maccabees, when you go back into the account, let's go into one of these sons. I'm not going to read this whole account, right? But let's go to 2nd Maccabees. I want to get an account of the king trying to pervert the young Israelite man with a gift. This is 2nd Maccabees, chapter 7-24, right? When you read this account, King Antiochus, so-called King Antiochus, the wicked, right, thought to get Israel to profane the Most High laws by forcing them to eat pork. He tortured 7 sons and a mother and forced them to eat pork. But they didn't do it, right? Because they loved Yahweh Basham Yahushua more than their life. So this is 2nd Maccabees 7-24. Here's the so-called white man. What he's doing now is what he did back then. Now Antiochus, thinking himself despised, and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, while the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by words, but also assured him with oaths that he would make him both a rich and a happy man. If what? If he would turn from the laws of his fathers, and that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with his affairs. So this is what's going on now. See, the so-called white man, right? Esau, the Edomites, he will make you a rich and a happy man, but not you. He don't want to make you a happy man if you call him the wicked, if you call him the devil, if you say the system is corrupt, if he's the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, if you say America's Babylon the Great, if you say sodomy's a sin, right? If you say a man can't be with a man, a woman can't be with a woman, if you start speaking up against the society, he don't want to make you a rich man. Then they cut the deal from Kyrie Irving, and they kind of cut the deal that Kanye West had. They want to make you a happy man if you love them, if you accept what they give you. You'll only be a rich and happy man forever if you turn away from the laws of your fathers. So our people are happy. They're a happy man. Today is a day of festivity for our people. Mac and cheese, sweet potatoes, cornbread. You might do fish and grits. You might do the potato salad. You might have the collard greens. Jake, you eat pork chops, turkey legs. You know, the Negro meals, man. Right? You might have some deviled eggs. You might do ribs. Jake, you're on the grill. You're wearing your black fish shirts. You're putting your red, black, and flag, your red, what is that? Your red, black, and green flag, you're hanging it on the window. You're a happy man today. So-called white man knows you're happy because he got you to do one thing that our fathers never would do. He got you to turn away from the laws of your fathers. Because if you kept the law, you would know there ain't no way in hell you're free. Right? And that he would also take him for his friend and trust him with his affairs. But when a young man would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life. And that's what they do. If you got like a defiant Jake, it's always the mother that tries to exhort her son, hey, look, just calm down. Right? You might have a teenager. He might be kind of like against the system. He might be 17, 18, finding his way, and he might know something is off. Hey, who's going to be the first one to tell him to get in line? His mother. You better obey the so-called white man. That goes back to slavery. Oh, he didn't mean that. He didn't mean that, master. Oh, no, you know, he's just, oh, he didn't mean that. Oh, you know, he's just a young boy. Right? You better not speak against master. That's fear. Coonery is rooted in fear. Nothing more, nothing less. You can get mad at a coon all day. He's only a coon. He's only a sellout because he fears his oppressor. Right? So when you have these single black mothers who kind of pamper and cocker their son, they do it because they fear the so-called white man. They don't want to see what happened to their, because we don't know where the father is in this account. I'm led to believe the father died in the name of the Lord. So they don't want to see what happened to the father happened to the son. They don't want to see their son die, right? Or be in harm. So they kind of counsel their son to be passive and just to save your life. And that's what he did, man. See, the so-called white man's such a devil, and he studied us so much. First, he got, when you read Maccabees, he got an old man in the 6th chapter to get us to turn away from our fathers. Right? They got one of the top priests. So now they give you Jesse Jackson, they give you Al Sharpton, they give you pastors. Really, to destroy a nation, you have to infiltrate a nation through their priesthood. So when you corrupt the nation's priesthood, you corrupt their direct tie with their God. All right. So when you corrupt our pastors, these men that are supposed to keep us connected to Yahweh Basham Yahushua, by default, you corrupt the nation. You don't have to break into the house and force them to be sacrilegious or force them to be idolaters because you have corrupted the priesthood. Then once you corrupt the priesthood, then you corrupt the woman, right? And then you get them to get men to turn away. That's what happened to Adam. That's what happened to Samson. You get them to turn away from their God. So this so-called white man is more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. So he tried to get her to get her son to turn away from the Most High, playing on them with the woman. The same way the serpent tried to get Adam, or got Adam to turn away from the Most High, and got Samson to turn away from the Most High. Just save his life. But what did this Israelite woman do that the so-called black woman who celebrates Juneteenth today will not do? What did she do? It says, and when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised him that she would counsel her son. She said, I'm going to say something to him. Right? Don't worry about it. I got it. But she, bowing herself towards him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language, the Hebrew, on this manner. Here's what she told her son. O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee suck 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up into this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth, and all that is therein, and consider that the Most High made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. So she was spiritual. She was on a high level. She knew about the creation. She knew about the law. She knew about the Most High, right? What did she tell her son? Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy, Slaki, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again, and mercy with thy brethren. She said, hey, look, you better die like your brothers died. See, this was not the mentality that our mothers had in slavery. And we understand due to fear, Willie Lynch butt breaking, and she saw her husband ripped apart by horses. She saw her husband raped to death by the so-called white man. She saw her husband eaten alive. She may have saw her husband sold, branded, castrated. She don't want her son to go through that. I'm talking about in this life now. That's why you have, where's the woman at? Right? You think she's going to tell her son, don't celebrate Juneteenth? Right? Don't stand up for your against your oppressor. Don't stand up against the beast. Now, this is not against the so-called black woman, right? This is against our whole people. Our whole people are destroyed. But right now, I'm making a point. Right? This shows you how people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because if we read these laws and these commandments from the beginning, we would know these things. We would know the behavior of our enemy. So she said, fear not this tormentor. Right? Verse 30. While she was yet speaking these words, the young man said, whom wait ye for? So he kind of cut her off. Normally he would not cut his mother off of her speech. But he's like, wow, why are you telling me this? I'm ready to die. Let's do this. I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto our father by Moses. And thou, now he looked at the king. He was done talking to his mother. He kind of pointed this king out, kind of looked at him, right? And thou, that has been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews, shall not escape the hands of God. And the so-called white man, his creation of this law, he's the author of mischief. This is really mischief, right? Do you think the so-called white man is going to come out and tell you, hey, look, y'all have a Messiah ready to deliver you? Don't worry about it, right? Don't worry about this 1865. This is not your real freedom. We're here to tell you that y'all are the Israelites, right? Y'all are the children of God. This earth was made for y'all. We are your future slaves. The so-called white man in Israel who calls himself a Jew is not the real Jew. This holiday is just kind of to keep you asleep And your deliverance is coming by Yahweh Shai, who's going to beam you up in chariots and take you out this land, and you'll be free on that day. You think he's going to tell you that? Now you can say, no, he doesn't know that. He does know that. So this is mischief. If he knows when your true freedom is going to be and how it's going to happen, why would he give you a holiday now? Unless it was to give you mischief. He already knows. He knows the scriptures. Don't get it twisted. The so-called white man has studied the records. He knows how to keep us in sin. He knows the so-called kryptonite. He knows, hey, look, if I can get the Israelites to sin, that's in Judah, the 5th chapter. I can get their God to be against them. So he's not going to let you know these things, man. Stop giving so much credit to the so-called white man and trusting in him to let you know when you're free. He's your enemy. All right, let's get that in Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and 10. I'm gonna go back to that article. All right, let's go to the classic, right? Ecclesiasticus, the 12th chapter and the 10th verse. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Right? So iron would definitely rust. It may not rust day 1. You leave it outside, it may not rust day 2. It may not rust day 3. Hey, hell, it may not rust in a week. But it will rust. That's the point. It will rust in the process of time. Just give it time. And you're going to see that orange. You're going to see that dark red. You're going to see it rust. You say, there it go. I knew it was coming. Iron will rust. So what does that mean? That means the so-called white man's wickedness will be shown. It will come out. It's going to come out in a matter of time. I mean, it happens all the time. Didn't the Clippers, what was this guy's name? It was the guy that owned the Clippers. He said, I don't want niggas at the basketball game. Right? They could jump and they could dunk the ball. They could shoot these jump shots. But I don't want these niggas at the basketball game. He came out and said that. You know? There were 2 announcers not too long ago. They said they went to the Nigger Museum. They were on live TV and they were talking and they said, look, Donald Sterling, that was his name. The what? They were these 2 announcers that was announcing basketball, and they came out and said, look, we just came from the Nigger League Museum. Right? It's always going to come out. Right? It will always come out. So let's go back to this. Right? All right, let's read this. And look, you have your own holidays. The word holiday goes back to holy day. All right? So, Jake, I mean, you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You have the new moon just happened. So-called Saturday night at sundown. Just wrapped up Sunday night at sundown. Jake, you should have kept the new moon, man. Let's read on. Juneteenth. Juneteenth, long a regional holiday in the U.S. South, rose in prominence following protests in 2020 over police killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, and other African Americans, right? Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, is also known as Emancipation Day. It commemorates the day in 1865 after the Confederate States surrendered to end the Civil War, when a Union general arrived in Texas to inform a group of enslaved African Americans of their freedom under President Abraham Lincoln's 1863 Emancipation Proclamation. All right, now, see, I want to go into this word emancipation, right? Emancipation means to transfer or to sell. Okay, so when you emancipate somebody from slavery, it's not a liberation. It's not true freedom. You're literally taking them and you're emancipating them to someone else. You're transferring the so-called black man from chattel slavery into an industrial slavery. You're moving them from the cotton fields and the sugarcane fields, and you're moving them to the factories. You're moving them to the industrial plants. You're moving them to Model T Ford out in Detroit. You're moving them to these steel mills in Pittsburgh, PA. You're moving them to these other mills in Philadelphia. You're moving them to Chicago to work in these places. That's what an emancipation is. To take the so-called black man and move them up to keep up with the times and technology, right? As technology increased, it really, a lot of these European nations, they started doing trade more, and we're going to go into the history with the North. They kind of left the South and said, look, we're not really dealing with y'all like that, right? We're going to kind of deal with the North. So they kind of had a pact, and you got to go into this history and say, hey, look, let's just let's free them, get them out of that, and move them up here. Open up jobs and factories here, and we'll just modernize our slavery. That's all it is, right? Let's pull up the word emancipation. So you got to go into these words. Okay, emancipate. Now it says to set free from control, but let's read on, right? Because it's free from one person's control, but we're going to read, you set them free from one person and you give them to another person. From Latin, emancipatus, past participle of emancipare, to put out of paternal authority, declare someone free, give up one's authority over. In Roman law, the freeing of a son or a wife from the legal authority of the family to make her or his or her own way in the world, right? Let's read on. From assimilated, out of the way, here's what it means. Ex meaning out of the way, emancipare meaning to deliver, transfer, or sell, right? From mancipum meaning ownership, right? And it breaks down to manus meaning hand, and capere meaning to take. So you emancipate someone, you are delivering them or transferring them or selling them out of your hand into somebody else's hand. That's all it means, right? It doesn't mean you are completely set free. Because if you was truly set free, again, you wouldn't be paying bills, taxes, rent, right? Mortgage, right? You've just been transferred over. All right. Let's see. Not used by the Romans in reference to the freeing of slaves. The verb for this being manumittere, meaning to send them out of your hand. The English word was adopted in the jargon of the cause of religious toleration, then anti-slavery, right? So really, when you go into it, it means to, where is it at? To transfer, deliver, transfer, or sell, right? And that really goes back from the chattel slavery up to the North. That's why there was something after slavery called the Great Migration, right? Let's pull this up. Where's the Great Migration? Let's get this. I want to get this. I want to get a good picture. That's a good picture right here. Let me see if I can open this up. Right? Jake, your family that's from Detroit, Chicago, Philly, right? Let's see. Where's his map at? What is this madness? I don't want to see all of this. All right, let's see if I can get a better map of the Great Migration. See, the Great Migration is not the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, check this out. Oh, hold on. Let me go back. All right, this is the best we can do. So the Great Migration, what you're looking at on your bottom left is a map key or a map legend. Anything that's dotted is the Great Migration from 1915 to 1940. And this is after, kind of post, and the same time of that sharecropping. Then you have the Second Migration. And another quick point, a lot of these so-called white men didn't let you leave, man. There were some Jakes that didn't even know that they were free until almost the 1900s. There are certain accounts in certain places in Babylon the Great that these Judites didn't even know that they were free until 40 years later, man. But nevertheless, the first great migration from down south up till north. So Jake, a lot of your family that's from Chicago, and I know people from Chicago, their family goes back to Mississippi. A lot of people from Mississippi actually moved to Chicago, right? My family's from Detroit, so a lot of family, a lot of people from Detroit, they came from Alabama, and I know that. I know when my so-called great grandfather moved from Alabama up to Detroit, but he moved in a second migration. He moved in the early 60s from Mobile, Alabama up to Detroit. Right? If your family's from Cleveland, more than likely they go back to Alabama or Georgia. Right? And this is true. You can ask anybody from these cities. About 85 to 95% of the time, anybody that lives up north, their family came from these parts. All right? They all moved, and then some moved out west. You see this map? Some moved to LA. When you watch that movie, Devil in a Blue Dress with Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington, I believe he lived in California at that time. But in the beginning of that movie, he was going into it how family from down south moved to Texas, and a lot of people from Texas moved out to California. All right, so a lot of Jakes in LA and all of that, you came from Louisiana, Mississippi. Right? So this is how you got up and around, because they had these plants, car manufacturing facilities, steel places in Pittsburgh and things of that nature. Jake, you went up there and you was working up in here, man. Right? You was working up here in these different places. So you were emancipated, meaning you were transferred from down south and you became a slave up north. Right? You became a slave to the 9 to 5. Like I said, in Detroit, I'm gonna kind of talk about that. Jake, you came up here and you worked in these Model T places, man. Right? Let's go back into this, man. Jake, you're still in captivity. I believe that's Nehemiah, the 9th chapter. Right? Let's get back into the scripture, right? This is Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse, let's see, let's see where I want to start. Right, I want to get this precept. Right, bear with me. Right, so Jake, I mean, you're still, and we're going to show you this in Nehemiah, right? Salakia for this. Right, 9, right? 2 more verses down. Salakia. Nehemiah chapter 9 and 37. I'm going to start at 36. It reads, "Behold, we are servants this day. And for the land that thou gavest unto our fathers to eat the fruit thereof and the good thereof, behold, we are servants in it." Right, now this applied to when we were in the Persian captivity. Right, but remember, the Lord also gave this land unto Gad. Also, this land was given to the 10 tribes. Now they're servants in it. And it yielded much increase unto the kings, whom thou hast set over us because of our sins. So the much increase of this land was the cotton that came out this land, the tobacco that came out this land, the sugar cane that came out of the islands, and it gave much increase unto the kings, whom the Most High set over us because of our sins. Right, so like you're reading on. Also, they have dominion over our bodies. So they have dominion over your body, man. They can stop and frisk you, arrest you. And there was a case in Mississippi where you had a group of police officers. This shows you they had dominion over our bodies. This was extremely wicked, and they got caught kind of groping these young men. And these young men couldn't do nothing about it. They would be walking down the street. They'll get pulled over and groped by the police. I believe that was in Minneapolis. Let me see if I can find it. Right, let's see, sexual harassment. Right, let's see if I can find it. I'm not going to find a video. Hopefully I can find a video, but there was a lot of police officers. They got jammed up in sexual assault, right? And it was a bunch of young men, right? A bunch of young men. So they could just pull you over and do God knows what to you, man. Right? They could just lock you up and throw you in the back of a van somewhere and take you on a rough ride, or right. So they do have dominion over your bodies, man. Force you to get a something in your arm, right? During the pestilence time, make you stay 6 feet apart, tell you can go here, you can go here, you can't go over there. So they do have dominion over our bodies and over our cattle at their pleasure. And we are in great distress. So we're still here, serving this day, and we can't even do what we want to do, man. Right? They have dominion over your bodies, playing upon tables that he may run that readeth it. All right, so let's go back to this. So we actually immigrated, for lack of better terms, from down south to work up north. And that's where you get your 9 to 5. Your concept of a 9 to 5 slavery, working like a Hebrew slave, is started with the so-called white man, right? He's the one who gave you the 9 to 5. Henry Ford, as Jake, you were up there working and working and working and working. He's the one that gave you the 9 to 5, 8-hour workday, the so-called white man. We're going to get a Negro's 8 hours. Right? He looks like a double, man. He is a double. So Jake, you was all up working for this so-called white man. All up in Detroit. You was in Pittsburgh working in these mines. I mean, these steel factories and steel mills. You know? So you moved up north just to work in factories and just to work in plants. So let's actually see if we can get something on this. Right, Great Migration. I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch that. Right. Oh, let me scroll down. Okay, let's see what we get out of this. Okay, Salakia. All right, it reads. I'm not going to read this whole thing. In the U.S. history, because there were jobs, right? There was no more working in the fields, no more sharecropping. There was none of that. You couldn't, you wasn't making no money sharecropping. Sharecropping is when you work on a so-called white man's land for money, and you got to kind of give them a good majority of your increase of your field, right? And you keep a little for yourself. You're kind of free, but you're really like an indentured servant. They say, our people say, well, look, I'm not making no money. I'm getting robbed by the so-called white man. I'm getting plagued. I heard there's jobs up north, right? So let me read a little of this. I'll read this first paragraph. In U.S. history, the widespread migration of African Americans in the 20th century from rural communities in the South to large cities in the North and West. At the turn of the 20th century, the vast majority of Black Americans lived in Southern states. From 1916 to 1970, during the Great Migration, it is estimated that some 6 million Black Southerners relocated to urban areas in the North and the West. So you came up there to be a slave, right? You didn't come up there to be free. The massive stream of European immigration to the United States, which had begun in the late 19th century, and waned during World War I, slowed to a trickle with immigration reform in the 1920s. I want to jump down. Let's see. Check this out. I'm not going to read this whole thing. With advertisements, okay, let me read this. The push factor for the exodus were poor economic conditions in the South. So this is why they left down South. This was all set up by the so-called white man. He crippled that economy down South in the Civil War. A lot of that stuff was done by design. Exacerbated by the limitations of sharecropping, farm failures, and crop damage from the boll weevil, as well as ongoing racial oppression in the form of Jim Crow laws. Pull factors included encouraging reports of good wages. They said, we heard there's good wages up north. Not making no money sharecropping. And living conditions that spread by word of mouth and that appeared in African-American newspapers with advertisements for housing and employment and first-hand stories of newfound success in the North. The Chicago Defender, for example, became one of the leading promoters of the Great Migration. In addition to Chicago, other cities that absorbed large number of migrants included Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, and New York City. Right? Seeking better civil and economic opportunities, many Blacks were not wholly able to escape racism by migrating to the North, where African Americans were segregated into ghettos. See that? They said, look, you Negroes, you're going to come up here and work, but you're not going to work, you're not going to live amongst us. We're going to put you over here. All right? Into ghettos and urban life introduced new obstacles. Newly arriving migrants even encountered social challenges from the Black establishment in the North, who tended to look down on the country manners of the newcomers. Right? So really, yeah, emancipation was a transfer and process of time from sharecropping and chattel slavery all the way up until industrial slavery, factories, and plant work, right? And working in these modern day jobs. This is still slavery. It just was a transfer from the South to the North. That's what this word literally means. Okay. Where is it at? To deliver, transfer, or sell. So when you go back to this article, they say, what is Juneteenth? Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, is also known as Emancipation Day. It commemorates the date in 1865 after the Confederate States surrendered to end the Civil War, when a Union general arrived in Texas to inform a group of enslaved African Americans of their freedom under Abraham Lincoln. In 1980, Texas officially declared it a holiday. This year, at least 28 states and DC will legally recognize Juneteenth and give state workers a paid day off. Although in part a celebration, the day is also observed solemnly to honor those who suffered during slavery in the United States with the arrival of the first captive Africans. See that? Damn Africans. Over 400 years ago, right? So this is not true slavery, right? This is not true liberation. True liberation is going to come by means of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. And true liberation has to start with your spirit and start with your mind. This is Isaiah chapter 61:1. Because let's say you are free. Let's just say hypothetically, okay, I am free. I no longer work on the cotton field. I no longer have to cut down sugar cane. I no longer am getting whipped and beat, but you're still bound in your sins. You're still bound by ignorance. You're still bound up in darkness. So there's levels of liberation, right? You're in captive under the flesh, right? Even the Apostle Paul said that in Romans the 7th chapter, the 14th verse. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin. Paraphrasing. So you're in captivity due to the flesh being, or your spirit being bound by the flesh. You're in captivity when you have to go to so-called work. You're in captivity because you can't leave America. And you're in captivity because you are ruled by the powers that be. So for you to think that you're free, you got to really understand what captivity is. You're in mental captivity too. So Jay, I mean, you have no business celebrating this so-called freedom, huh? Right? Isaiah chapter 61:1. The spirit of Yahweh, right, Bashmi Abishai, is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. So when you preach good tidings, that's a true proclamation, right? The word proclamation goes back to the Latin, right? It's like a compound word. Pro meaning forward, and clamation goes back to the Latin clamere, which is a Latin infinitive that means to shout, right? So when you proclaim something, you shout it forth. So when you preach good tidings, that's a true proclamation. That's why it says to preach good tidings. Good tidings is the gospel, good news, right? That you don't have to worry about being in Babylon the Great when Yahweh shall return. You don't have to worry about bills and rent and sin and unclean air and defiled water, right? And wicked men and wicked women and jobs and mortgage and depression and sadness and suicide and murder and in the oppressor. That's the true good tidings. That's the true proclamation. So the true proclamation of emancipation of proclamation is when you're transferred from the hand of the so-called white man and to the hands of Yahweh Bashmi Abishai. That's the true proclamation of emancipation. Anything if it's not that, then there's no proclamation of emancipation or emancipation of proclamation, right? You have to be transferred from the hand of your enemy. You're going to be taken, right? Really going to be taken from the hand of your enemy, given into the hands of Yahweh Bashmi Abishai. That's the good tidings. Not no damn Joe Biden, a child molester, signing a wicked law to pacify your mind and keep you further in sleep in this great war of ignorance that you're desperately losing, right? It says to preach good tidings unto the meek. Who are the meek? The Israelites. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, right? To proclaim, to shout forth. That's what that means. To proclaim liberty to the captives. So I thought they said this Union general came in and said, y'all are free. No, Yahweh Shah is the one to proclaim us and our freedom. The men of the Lord who go out on the highways and byways. They're the ones who are going to proclaim true liberty. We don't need a so-called white man going to Texas and traveling down south to say that you Negroes are free. You think he's fulfilling Isaiah chapter 61? Oh, well, that's Isaiah 61 fulfilled, because in 1865 it linked directly up with Isaiah chapter 61. Stop the madness, man. Right? It reads to proclaim liberty to the captives. That's the year of Jubilee. That's what that's really about. A spiritual year of Jubilee is when all debts are null and void, canceled, and a man is allowed to go back to his own land. Right? And a man is emancipated from the hand of his master, and he's put back into the hand of Yahweh Bashmi Abishai and his family heritage. That's the root of the context of proclaiming liberty. It goes back to the Jubilee. Right? We'll show you that, right? Let's actually go to the book of Leviticus. Right? Chapter 25. Right? So you see the title, the Sabbatic Year and the Year of Jubilee. Okay, so we'll jump down. This is Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 8. So in the ancient world, right, your land could have been temporarily sold. You may have been in slavery under somebody else, right? But at a set time, If it wasn't the seventh year, there was a year of Jubilee where everybody was proclaimed free. There was a true emancipation. There was a true transfer of ownership from that master and to the hands of the Most High, back in his family line and his heritage. And we'll read that, right? Leviticus chapter 25 and 8. And thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. So you can have a Sabbath of weeks, right? What is a Sabbath day? A Sabbath day is you have 6 days of work and your 7th day is a day of rest. You can have a Sabbath of years. So you have 6 years of debt, 6 years of captivity, 6 years of being owned, right? And then a 7th year, you're let free. And then you have a Jubilee where you count those 7 years, like you count 7 weeks. So here, 7 years went by, 7 more years, 7 more years, 7 more years, until you get to 49 years, right? 7 times 7. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is the Day of Atonement, right? In the Day of Atonement shall ye make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man into his possession, and ye shall return every man into his family. Are we returned back to our possession? And we have been, there was truly a proclamation to set us free. The Bible says that we should be put back in our own land. Why are we still in Baltimore, Chicago, LA, Detroit, Houston, Miami, Jamaica, London, Paris, Trinidad, Tobago, Venezuela, Chile, Rio, right? Why are we still in these strange lands? If the biblical definition of liberty is that every man goes back to his own possession, that means I should be in Jerusalem. You should be in Jerusalem. We should be in Carmel, Gilead, Bashan, Mount Hebron, right? This is our land that we should be on. How are we free and our enemy still in the land? So this is not true liberty. That's why the Lord said we're destroyed, because we don't know the law. You got to know the law. You got to know the scriptures to understand what true freedom really is. Now you can say, well, my possession is the block. No, that's not your possession, Negro. You're not, the block isn't yours. Well, I'm just holding down the block. Let's go. What is our possession? Right? Our possession is the homeland. Right? The whole earth, when you go into it, is our possession. So we don't have control over the whole earth yet. That's what the second Ezra, 7th chapter. Right? We do not have possession over the entire earth. It reads, and I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. So if the world was made for our sakes, hold on, let's actually get that. In 2nd Ezra 6. Why do not we have a possession? 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and 59. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? You see that? So if the world is made for our sakes, why are we still in America? Why can't we leave? Why does Jeremiah 50 say that all that held us fast refused to let us go? How long are we still going to be here thinking that we're free? You Negroes with your red, black, and green flag. Even Ezra saw that. So let's go back to this. All right. Actually, hold on. Let's go back to this year of Jubilee. Let's read this again. Leviticus chapter 25 and 10. And ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you. The word jubilee goes back to the Hebrew meaning trumpet or shofar. Because at this year you would blow the trumpet. Everybody would shout, "You're free. You're free" in the Hebrew. They would go throughout the land and shout it. You didn't need a Union general to do so. And ye shall return every man into his possession, and ye shall return every man into his family. So our true liberty, that true proclamation is going to be what? Let's go to Revelation. What are those true words we're going to hear to know that we're actually free? Is it going to be the voice of a Union general, or is it going to be Revelation chapter 11 and 12? Let's see. Revelation chapter 11 and 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, that's a proclamation, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So the true proclamation is the shout. Let's get that in 1 Thessalonians, the shout of the archangel. And you're going to hear, come up hither. That's the true proclaiming your freedom. All right, so we have to show you what the true emancipation of proclamation is. All right, let's go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and I'm going to read verse 13. I'm going to start it. I'm going to get straight to the point, verse 16. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and 16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel. What is that voice going to say? Come up hither. You're free. And with the trump of the Most High, like that Jubilee, right? And the dead of Hamashiach shall rise first. So that's the true proclamation. Now, where is the emancipation? That's Revelation chapter 11. Right? Here's the emancipation. Revelation chapter 11 and 15. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and of his Mashiach, and he shall reign forever and ever. So the true transfer is when every kingdom, that's Russia, America, China, Iran, NATO, the EU, any alliance diplomatically, any country, their power is going to be emancipated. It's going to be transferred from man to Yahweh. Right? That's a true emancipation. That also links directly up with Ecclesiasticus, the 10th chapter. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 10. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, which is what? Theft, robbery, taking all your money out of your paycheck, taxes, slavery, injuries. What are injuries? Decapitation, lynching, knees on your neck, castration, buck breaking. Because of these things, and riches got by deceit, right? That's reaping the benefits of slave labor. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. So when you transfer a kingdom, you transfer what? The buildings, the people, the natural resources, the money. You transfer everything. So we're really going to be set free and emancipated once we're given back into the hand of our God, Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. So, like I said, we have to understand what these words really mean, right? And we have to go back into the law, because this is not Emancipation Day, a true righteous Emancipation Day. It's not rooted in true liberation. It's not rooted in really being set free. All right, you just sent from the south to the north in the deal that they had, man. All right, let's read a little bit more on this. How are people marking the day? And how are they celebrating it? People are marking the 158th anniversary of the holiday with festive meals and gatherings. Traditionally, celebrations have included parades and marches, many of which were held on Sunday. People are also celebrating the holiday by organizing for civil rights, reading books about African American heritage and history, attending festivals, musical performances, and dining at Black owned restaurants. So great. Jake, you do that just about all the time. When is Jake not at a concert, eating at a Black owned restaurant? Right? Well, I mean, when are you not? What is true? What is African American heritage? We're going to read about George Washington Carver and Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Frederick Douglass, Madam C.J. Walker in the hot cone. Because that's about as deep as the average so-called Black man gets in African American history. You're not getting no deeper than George Washington Carver, man, and the Peanuts and the soap. Not going past 16. I know they're not going past 1619. See, our history, our heritage is what? What is true African American heritage? Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Same book, different chapter. Chapter 24 and 23. It reads, all these things are the book of the covenant of the Most High God, even the law which Moses commanded for what? For an heritage unto the congregation of Jacob. So you have Israelite heritage. What is Israelite heritage? Speaking in Hebrew, your homeland is Jerusalem or Judea, or the land of Israel rather. What is true Israelite heritage? Wearing fringes, mitres, women wearing dresses and head wraps, and men having crowns and warlike apparel, right? Eating lamb and the bitter herbs for the Passover and drinking the wine, right? Keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Weeks. And that's our heritage. Loving one another. Part of our heritage is not trusting our enemy. Part of our heritage is knowing who your enemy is because it's in the law. Part of your heritage is remembering. You're commanded really to remember the evil of the so-called white man. Right? You're commanded to remember that the Most High has a war with Amalek from generation to generation. It's part of your heritage. The Lord said, remember what Amalek did. So if we were rooted in the law, then we would never, ever, ever celebrate these worldly days. Because I'm commanded, and the Lord said, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom. Right? Let's get that. One of my favorite Psalms. Psalm chapter 137. Right? Here's what you're commanded as part of your heritage. It's lucky here. Psalms chapter 137. Right? Like I said, you got brothers saying, oh, don't read Psalms chapter 137. Don't read that. It's not nice. Right? It's not the time for that. Maybe we got to read that in the kingdom. Don't read Psalms chapter 137, verses 7 and 8 yet. I don't really want to talk about that. Please don't read that. We're going to read it, man. Oh, but it talks about well, let's see. Let's get into it. Because you're commanded. Part of your heritage is getting your mind right and remembering things, right? Psalm chapter 137 and 7. Remember, O Yahweh, Bashmi Awashai, the children of Edom, and the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. So you're commanded, and David is asking the Lord to remember what the children of Edom did in the day of Jerusalem. The day of Jerusalem is speaking about two accounts. The first account is the fall of the temple and the city in 586 BC, when the Babylonians came and destroyed it. Now, the Edomites, when you read First Ezra chapter 4 and 45 on down, you find out during that siege of the Babylonians that the Edomites actually came in and volunteered to burn the temple down and said, burn it down, raise it. That's what raise it means. Burn it down. As they cheered on the Babylonians as they destroyed the Most High's people. The Lord said, remember what they said. right? It reads, O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. So this place should be destroyed. It will be. Happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. So the Lord said you should be happy to pay them back for what they did to us. Here's the verse that Jake don't like, right? Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. So the Lord said you're going to be happy to take. You're not going to ask, beg, plead. Can I have it? You're going to snatch that baby out that so-called white woman arms. This is the truth of the Bible. Well, I didn't know that was in there. Yeah, it's in there. Now, it doesn't say you're going to take them and put them in foster care. Okay, you're going to take them and give them a McNugget meal. Okay, I want a 5-piece. Okay, I want sweet, not sour sauce, but I want that cup. But I want a small because if I get a small, no, it's not what it's talking about. You're going to take these kids and these babies, these little ones, and you're going to grab them up. And you're going to do what? You're going to dash them against the stones. What does that mean? You're going to take them, and you're going to smash them against the rocks. Right? That's what the Most High said. You might take one and take, like I said, babies always say they got that soft spot. You have children, they have that soft spot. But these Edomites, and once your baby is sensitive, oh, don't touch the soft spot, don't do nothing, hold on, be careful, right? But with these babies, these Edomites, you're going to take that soft spot, you're going to dig your damn fist all up in there, man, till it cave into their brain, till they can't see straight, till they go blind. Then as they can't see, you're going to pick them up. Like, you know how you shake a carpet or a rug, you're going to pick them up by their legs, and you're going to just dash them against the stones. That sounds messy. I don't want to do that. I just want to, you got Jake saying, I don't want to do that. I'll take the kid. I don't want to do that. That sounds too harsh. Well, if that sounds too harsh, then let me go to Jeremiah chapter 48, right? This is Jeremiah 48 and 10. Cursed be he that doeth the work of the Lord deceitfully, and cursed be he that keepeth back his sword from blood. So if you keep back your sword from blood, you're going to be destroyed. You got to get down with this. It's not a matter of, oh, that's too rough. Why the babies? What did the babies do? No, you're going to take that baby, and you got to, just got to be in your mind. You got to take that baby, and you don't have to, with these Edomite babies, you don't need to put two hands around their neck. Their neck is small enough. So you could take one of your hands, and your cuff in your hand is actually a good grip. If you get a firm grip and you lift their chin up, you can get a nice grip. You don't need two hands. That's too much work, because you can do one with this hand, get a good grip. Okay, you could do two. Yeah, okay, they screaming. Okay, but we're not thinking about them screaming, crying. We don't care about those tears. They didn't care about your tears. So you got them, right? It's something you'll be able to do. So you'll grab them like this, like you grab a cup. Right now, you can take them. You can smash them against each other like that, and then smash them against the stones. You can smash them like this, right? You can take one and throw it against the rocks. You can skip, and there's a lot that you can do. You're going to dash them against the stones. It don't say how you're going to do it, right? Let's go to this word dash. See, this is when you're truly liberated. Jake, you're not dashing the Edomites against the stones, right? To shatter, break, beat in pieces. So you're going to shatter their children. That means bone, look at this, dispersed, break in pieces, dash, pulverize. Let's pull up this word pulverize. But Moses said you're going to pulverize. See, I get excited going into this, man. Pulverize. Oh, look at this. Tomorrow, ooh, right? Reduce to fine particles. Hold on now. The Most High said you're going to reduce these Edomites to fine particles. So that's a lot of dashing. That's not a one time. That's not okay. I tripped the Edomite and he fell. Now you're going to reduce them to fine particles. So you will be angry. You're going to have a spirit on you, right? You're going to be upset. So we're not happy on this day. We're happy when we get the reward ease off what they have done unto us. We're happy when Yahweh Basham Yahushua is on his throne. Right? We're happy when we're delivered. Right? That's in Psalms chapter 126. Right? This is Psalms chapter 126 and 1. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. Are the heathen saying that? No, they're not saying that right now. So you're not really turned from your captivity. Then you're not truly free. Because the heathen aren't saying Yahweh has done great things for his people. They're the ones that's doing things for you. They're the ones who gave you this holiday. The Most High didn't give you this. Creepy Joe gave you this. So this is another cut to show that you're not turned from captivity. When you're truly turned from captivity, it's going to feel like a dream. It's not going to seem real. Right? It's going to seem like, what is going on? Like when Peter got delivered from prison, Peter thought that he was in a trance or he saw a vision. He didn't know what happened when he got rescued by the angel. So when we're truly free, it's going to be like a dream. You can't even really imagine that. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. So this is David praying that in the future, right, prophetically, that the Most High turns our captivity and frees us from the hand of the oppressor. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. So there's hope in this thing. We're sowing in tears. Right? Our loved ones are dying. Those tears are sown in the earth. Right? Brothers and sisters are stressed and crying and depressed. They have bills, rent, and family is being killed off, and men are being locked up unjustly, and all hell is breaking loose. So we're sowing tears in the earth. But those tears are going to be rooted in the earth, and it's going to come up joy. And you're going to reap all of the joy when the Lord delivers you. Right? He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. So all of the sorrow that we put in the earth, the Most High actually remembers that. He counts the amount of tears that have been sown in the earth. Let's get that in Psalms chapter, I believe that's Psalms chapter 58. All right, this is Psalms chapter 58. That may be 56, right? So let me get this. Psalms chapter 56. The Most High actually counts your tears that are sown in the earth. Psalms chapter 56 and 8. Thou tellest my wanderings. Put thou my tears into thy bottle. Are they not in thy book? So all of your tears are recorded, right? It's recorded. Every tear from every Israelite that was ever touched and afflicted. The Lord said, touch not mine anointed and do my prophets no harm. So every tear of every mother, every father, every son, every daughter, every prophet that was brought over here, every priest that was brought over here, every king that was brought over here, every princess was brought over here, every tear that you cried, right, due to oppression, is being recorded by the Most High. By the drop, right? As soon as it hit the ground, the angel records that. The tear of this brother, because this man oppressed them, because this man whipped them, this man beat them, this man raped them, this man lynched them, This man chopped off their rod and their testicles. This man raped this man in front of his son and his daughter. This woman's legs were opened out, spread apart, and the so-called white man stuck tools and devices in it and tortured her. And all types of wild, vile, lewd, evil, demonic experiments. It's not the tears of the saints in the book? Are not our wanderings recorded? So it is the Most High that's going to justify us and free us. We don't need the so-called white man to tell us that we're free. We don't need him to proclaim a holiday. In 2021, 500 years later, here, we'll give you Negroes a day. Hey, Amalek been at a day. It didn't take Amalek 500 years to get a day or two, right? To get a whole thing dedicated to what they so-called allegedly went through. It didn't take them 500 years, right? It didn't take the Japanese man 500 years to get reparations, right? It didn't take them no time. But you Negroes shows how much they respect you. They said about 500 years later, we'll give them a day, and we'll kind of mix it in with Sodomite Pride Month, and they still got to go to work, right? It's not like the Thanksgiving. It's not the level of Christmas, our wicked holidays, right? We just give them a day and they still got to go to work. Everybody, some of y'all kind of get off, the rest of y'all go to work, whatever. You know? Dude, so we're not free, man. This Juneteenth is pure mockery, if I've ever seen it. Pure mockery. Look at this. And we're gonna be set free, man, by the hand of our God, Yahweh Bashmi Awashad. We know and believe that we're not going to be in America forever. We're not going to be working forever. This stuff is over with, I assume. There are wars on the earth, pestilence on the earth. All hell is getting ready to break loose. World War III is on the horizon. There are blood moons, signs in the sun, signs in the stars. Seditions and governments being overthrown. These are major signs that prophesy and come before our deliverance out of here, man. Even the apostle said, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Jerusalem or Israel in Acts 1 and 6? Right? And the Lord kind of gave him signs in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21 to look forward to, man. Right? Look at this, celebrate freedom. All right, so we got a lot of work we have to do, man. We got a lot of work we got to do to let our people know when we'll truly be free. Right? And we're gonna be free by these chariots, man. The chariots are gonna beam us up and get us out of this land. Right? The chariots are gonna beam us up and get us out of this land through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Awashad. Right? So with that, right, I want to get Revelation chapter 22, right, and verse 12. Right? Let's go to Revelation chapter 22 and verse number 12. Right? Let's read that. It reads, and behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according as his work shall be. Right? So closing out, the Lord is coming like a thief in the night. Right? And the heavens are going to pass away with a great noise. So the Lord is going to give every man according as his work shall be. Meaning your reward is really solely based on how diligent you are when it comes to keeping the commandments and doing the work of the Most High. I mean, your work ethic has to be top tier to receive a top tier reward and the top tier deliverance, which means that you can't be slothful, you can't be lukewarm, you can't put your desires and your pleasures in the flesh and what you want to do before doing the work of Yahweh Bashmi Awashad, before repentance, prayer, fasting, keeping the law, doing the work. Right? These things are demanded of Yahweh Bashmi Awashad. So you have to ask yourself, well, how have my works been? right? You have to examine yourself. Weigh your works in the balance and ask yourself, have I been as diligent as I should have been, or as I could be, rather? Right? Am I giving my best effort? How's my work ethic in the truth? How's my study habits, my prayer? Am I keeping that commandment? Am I reading the law? Am I making sure that my obedience is according to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua? Right? Am I building up in the faith? Am I exhorting my brothers? Right? What am I doing to maximize my work that I may be rewarded salvation in the land of the living? So with that, I'm going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh. Bashima Mashiach Wamalak Yahushua. Most High, you were edified. Kwam Yasha. Shalom.